When you look at how the pandemic has affected Lloyd's of London, but also the insurance market in general, what will its legacy be?
Well, as you rightly say, this has been a very large event for the insurance industry. And at Lloyd's, we've announced that we will pay claims in excess of £6 billion related to the pandemic. And the largest of those have been around event cancellation issues. Increasingly, of course, what we're focused on is how can we support our customers in future pandemics, but also more broadly across other systemic risks like cyber and climate. And so one of the big themes that we have post this pandemic is working more closely with governments to provide solutions to these kinds of challenges. So interestingly, statistically, I think the total resources of the non-life insurance sector globally are about $2 trillion to pay all of their claims. But what the IMF said in 2020, the government's pumped in some $14 trillion to support their economies. And so you can see that the scale of the challenge around the pandemic has been much too large for the insurance industry alone to bear. And so I think creating a collaboration between the industry and government is going to be key to addressing future systemic risks.
So can you give us an indication of what you think the final bill for COVID is? Is it too soon to actually see how much this will cost Lloyd's of London and some of the underwriters?
No, so we think our total bill will be of the order of £6 billion now. The key now is, of course, that many of these covers are not available to our customers going forward, and we need to reintroduce them in order to support our customers in building back resilience into their business models as they try to reopen for business.
Are more people asking for insurance against future pandemics? Is that something that you can insure?
Yes, well, in fact, the answer is that we did provide insurance cover. So after the SARS epidemic, we produced a report in 2008 that's been on our website since then, which looks enormously prescient for the issues that the economies around the world have subsequently faced through this pandemic. And we put in place products to try to support our customers. But nobody bought them. So one of the challenges around this is not just having the products available, it's behavioral activity on the part of our customers. And what we find is that where events are very remote in terms of their perception, even if the impact is very high, people don't buy the insurance covers. Now, clearly, pandemic is now no longer regarded as a remote event, so people are interested in buying pandemic covers, but it's not just an issue of whether they are available, they also need to be affordable for our customers. And because of the size and scale of this kind of issue, this is why we need a partnership with government. And so we put out a white paper last summer on suggested structures that we could work with, and we've been engaged with more than 25 governments around the world to look at a partnership that would help customers be able to buy this product at an affordable price to protect themselves from future claims.
What kind of pricing do you expect? Because, of course, it's still remote, right, Bruce, that we have another global pandemic that forces businesses to shut completely down. On the other hand, it's got to be incredibly, impossibly expensive to pay off if everybody takes it.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we need to look at is that balance between availability and affordability, and we're running some test pilots at the moment around certain products with customers to see whether what we're offering is interesting to them. I mean, clearly we all have a limited budget around what we can spend to buy protection from the risks that we take, and so there is a prioritization issue here. And do we need to divert a premium that we pay for risks that we currently insure to buying pandemic cover, for instance, if we think that those kinds of risks are now looming much larger on the radar screen. So there's a huge behavioral issue here. I mean, if you take an example away from the pandemic and you look at windstorms in the United States, hurricanes blow pretty regularly every year in the southeast of the United States. But only 1/3 of the economic value that hurricanes destroy is actually insured even today, despite the regularity of these events. And what we know is that the most expensive real estate in the world is all located on waterfronts, and waterfronts are most exposed to hurricanes. So there's behavioral issues that also need to change here to build resilience into our economic models.
Well, Bruce, that brings me to climate change. To what degree are you seeing demand for insurance against climate events move higher?
So we think the total premium value for climate-related events is increasing year over year. We're doing a lot of that at Lloyd's today. But again, it's important that there's resilience alongside climate change. So our mantra really is trying to support our customers as they transition to more sustainable business models. We're absolutely committed to the UN sustainability goals for a net zero by 2050. And we've announced that from the beginning of next year, we will not insure new thermal coal projects, Arctic drilling, or oil sands projects, because we think those have the highest negative impact on the world's climate. And similarly, we're producing products to support renewable energy, particularly things like wind and solar.
Aside from climate and the threat of another pandemic coming potentially down the line, what other kinds of risks are people primarily looking to insure against?
So cyber is I think the third of the systemic risks that I call out. So pandemic, cyber, and climate, and cyber risks are also growing as a result of the pandemic. Much greater adoption, of course, of cyber ways of working through the pandemic, and therefore a need to adopt and adapt policies. So a good example of that would be typically you're not allowed to use your home under your standard home insurance policy as a place of work, and the insurance industry has moved to adapt its policies to allow for remote working. But there is an increasing evidence of ransomware, for instance, that's coming through in the last 12 months that's causing very substantial claims in the insurance marketplace against the provision that we have. And it's also important, just as you know, if you have a sprinkler system in a factory, it reduces the chance of fire. If you have a burglar alarm, it reduces the chance of theft. We've got to try to build a better engagement with our customers about reducing the incidence of risk that they face. And of course, if the risk goes down, so will the costs of the cover.
Bruce, thanks so much. Bruce Carnegie-Brown, there, Chairman at Lloyd's of London.